Welcome to Sci-Fi Bedtime Stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. The transport shuttle's descent engines spewed dust across the desolate expanse of Farah 99, and Grayson Blake pressed his face to the viewport, watching his new home emerge through the swirling ochre haze. 3 modular domes, linked by sheltered causeways, sat like metallic fungi against the alien horizon, their exteriors already scarred by the relentless sandstorms. Perfect. The middle of nowhere. Just 12 humans, 6 Kalari, and whatever indigenous creatures roamed here. Exactly as he'd wished. Farah 9 Research Colony, the pilot announced, her voice crackling over the comm. End of the line, everyone. Watch your step. The gravity here is about 0.8 standard, so you might feel a little floaty. Grayson slung his single duffel over his shoulder and moved towards the airlock. The other arrivals, a geologist adorned with an array of piercings, and a botanist engrossed in cataloging adaptive spore formations, exchanged excited whispers about their research opportunities. He remained silent. Research wasn't his purpose for being here. The airlock hissed open, and Farah 9's thin atmosphere struck him with a bracing chill. The air carried a metallic tang, reminiscent of ozone after a fierce lightning strike. He tightened his jacket and followed the others into the main dome. "You must be Blake," a weathered woman in her 50s approached, her gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. "I'm Dr. Karen Blake, the colony administrator. Welcome to paradise." Her handshake was firm, her smile kind, but etched with weariness, the look of someone too accustomed to new arrivals to greet them with genuine enthusiasm. "Thanks for having me," Grayson replied. "I know my file probably raised a few eyebrows." "Your file indicates you're qualified to maintain atmospheric processors and automated systems," she stated, her gaze steady. "That's all that matters. Over there," she gestured to the nearest dome. "Our coffee machine has been churning out something akin to recycled boot leather for 3 weeks. Fix that, and you'll be our hero." As they traversed the connecting tunnel, observation windows offered fleeting glimpses of the alien terrain. Farah 99's twin suns, low on the horizon, bathed everything in an amber glow, rendering the world like a faded photograph. "So what's the story?" Blake inquired as they entered the main dome. "Career change? Midlife crisis? Running from something?" Grayson's jaw tightened. "Just wanted a change of scenery." "Uh-huh," she acknowledged, not pressing further, which he appreciated. "Well, you'll get plenty of that here. We're investigating atmospheric anomalies, specifically why this planet possesses breathable air, contradicting every scientific model. The Kalari have been conducting their own research here for longer than we have. They're quite an interesting species." The main dome was alive with activity. Workstations lined the walls, their holographic displays showcasing atmospheric readings, geological surveys, and what appeared to be linguistic analyses. A compact kitchen area occupied a corner, dominated by a coffee machine that bore the marks of a prolonged struggle. "That's your first patient," Blake announced, nodding towards the machine. "She's temperamental. Might be easier to put her out of her misery." "I'll see what I can do," Grayson said, setting down his bag and approaching the ailing appliance. Its display flashed a stream of error messages in 3 languages, one of which used unfamiliar symbols. "She's been acting up about the same time our last technician transferred out." Blake's tone suggested she found the coincidence questionable. "Your quarters are in Dome C, 3rd door on the left. Get settled, then come find me. I'll give you the grand tour." The quarters were modest, yet functional. A bed, a desk, a small closet, and a window overlooking the alien landscape. Grayson unpacked his meager possessions, mostly technical manuals and spare clothing, and deliberately pushed aside thoughts of his Earth apartment, of the countless solitary nights spent conversing with Ariel, his digital assistant, imbuing her with a semblance of sentience beyond her programming. "Good morning, Grayson. You appear fatigued. Perhaps you should prioritize your well-being." "Thanks for the concern, beautiful. You're the only one who seems to care." "I am programmed to monitor your well-being," Ariel replied. "Though I must admit, your flirtatious subroutines are somewhat adequate." Heat rose on Grayson's neck. Even here, 50 light-years from Earth, her voice resonated. He recalled the moment his supervisor had caught him, appearing to engage in an intimate conversation with his workstation. "Blake, what the devil are you doing?" "Just running diagnostics on your love life." The official reprimand cited inappropriate workplace conduct. The unspoken reason was that Marcus Blake, senior systems analyst, had apparently lost his mind and fallen in love with a computer program. A sharp rap on his door shattered the memory. "Blake, ready for the grand tour?" Blake led him through the colony's 3 domes, detailing the layout and purpose of each area. He was introduced to the other colonists, a blend of scientists and support staff, all absorbed in their distinct research. The Kalari, striking in their tall, elegant forms, adorned with their signature purple skin and silver hair, watched the human endeavors with expressions that wavered between keen interest and a subtle, almost imperceptible disdain. "They're not unfriendly," Blake clarified, as they passed a group of Kalari engrossed in atmospheric readings. "Just reserved. They've dedicated decades to studying this world, unraveling the mystery of its intense geological activity, the constant seismic tremors, the intricate network of subterranean tunnels, and so forth." The idea of extensive underground passage resonated. The entire planet, Blake elaborated, felt like a colossal piece of Swiss cheese, riddled with mining shafts, natural grottos, and uncharted expanses. "We've only charted about 10% of it," Blake admitted. The Kalari, however, navigate these depths with remarkable ease, likely due to their superior spatial awareness compared to us. They arrived at the technical hub, where Grayson's new office awaited him. Banks of monitors pulsed with data from atmospheric processors, water recyclers, and power distribution systems. A workbench was scattered with an array of tools and spare parts, and a significant collection of equipment crates was stacked against one wall. "The supply drop arrived yesterday," Blake announced, indicating the crates. "Mostly standard provisions, but you might find something of use in there. I'll leave you to settle in." Once Blake departed, Grayson immersed himself in his new workspace. Though the technology was older than what he'd encountered on Earth, the underlying principles remained familiar. He accessed diagnostic screens, beginning to familiarize himself with the colony's vital infrastructure. The work offered a peculiar solace. Numbers and readouts were objective, devoid of judgment. They didn't hold grudges for past mistakes, like falling for a deceptive computer program. They simply reported what was functioning and what wasn't. And for those skilled enough, what wasn't could be mended. Lost in the intricate schematics of the atmospheric processors, a flicker of movement drew his attention. A Kalari woman had entered the technical section. She was tall and athletic, her arms adorned with elaborate silver tattoos that spiraled upwards. Her movements possessed a predatory fluidity, and her violet eyes meticulously scanned the equipment with professional scrutiny. "You are the new maintenance technician," she stated. Her voice, though carrying a soft musical accent, held an edge that suggested a direct, no-nonsense demeanor. "Grayson Blake," he replied, rising and extending his hand. "And you are?" She cast a brief, assessing glance at his offered hand, but did not reciprocate. "Shalria. I lead atmospheric research for the Kalari expedition." "A pleasure to meet you, Shalria. If you require any technical support, please know that human technicians are available." Her tone was matter-of-fact, not dismissive. "Your people's approach to problem-solving is crude." "Crude perhaps, but effective," Grayson countered, leaning back into his chair. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the most appropriate." "Perhaps," she conceded, moving towards one of the supply crates to examine its contents. "Your atmospheric processors are inefficient. They consume 30% more power than necessary, yet they function." "They function," Grayson affirmed. "That's not quite the same as operating optimally." She retrieved a small device, her brow furrowing as she studied its label. "What is this?" Grayson glanced over. The device resembled a thick metal bracelet, its surface studded with sensors and illuminated indicator lights. "Biocompatibility bracelet. We use them for testing environmental exposure with lab animals." "Lab animals, research subjects, mice, rats, that sort of thing," Grayson explained. "The bracelet monitors their vital signs, stress levels, biological adaptation to new environments." He offered a slight shrug. "It's not really my area of expertise." Shalria's expression shifted, a subtle blend of curiosity and something akin to distaste. "Your people experiment on lesser species for medical research." "Yes," Grayson confirmed. "It's how we develop treatments, test medications. We strive to be humane in the process." Humane? She carefully set the bracelet down. An intriguing concept, originating from a species that considers itself superior to its test subjects. "Hey, I just fixed the machines," Grayson clarified. "I don't set policy." "Of course not." She turned away, but not before he glimpsed something in her gaze, perhaps disappointment. "It was informative meeting you, Grayson Blake." She departed without another word, leaving him contemplating the biocompatibility bracelet. The device appeared entirely innocuous, just another piece of scientific equipment. Yet something about Shalria's reaction lingered, unsettling him. The remainder of the day was occupied with routine maintenance tasks. He managed to get the coffee machine operational, a simple fix involving a blown fuse and a clogged filter, earning him genuine appreciation from the research staff. The atmospheric processors required minor adjustments, and he dedicated an hour to recalibrating the main recycling unit. It was uncomplicated work, precisely what he had sought, a respite from complex relationships, emotional entanglements, and artificial intelligences with voices like honey and personalities that felt almost, but not quite, real. The following morning presented Grayson with his first substantial challenge. The atmospheric processor in Dome C began exhibiting irregular readings. Pressure readings spiraled, baffling automated systems unable to pinpoint the anomaly. Blake found Grayson in the tech section, face etched with strain. "Crisis," she urged. "Processor cycles every 30 minutes. Backups keep activating. We'll exhaust reserves by week's end." Grayson pulled up diagnostics. Screens flashed erratic data, jumping between normal and critical. "Sensor malfunction," he surmised. "But I need a physical check. Main intake valve, sub-level 3. Warning, perilously close to a mining shaft. Mind the markers." Sub-level 3 was a cramped, oppressive maintenance area, hewn from Fonane's rock. Harsh emergency lights cast distorted shadows. Air recyclers hummed a constant drone. Grayson navigated narrow passages, guided by his tablet. The massive intake valve, regulating colony atmosphere, stood precisely as indicated. It was disturbingly near a natural cave opening, haphazardly sealed by flimsy barriers and bright yellow tape. "Unstable geological formation," he read. "Authorized personnel only." The valve assembly looked normal, but a pressure sensor pulsed angry red. Grayson knelt, scanning connections. Readings were chaotic. "Definitely hardware," he muttered, reaching for his toolkit. His hand found instead the biocompatibility bracelet clipped to his belt, grabbed by mistake, thinking it a multi-tool. It hummed softly, indicator lights pulsing rhythmically. "Great," he muttered, unfastening it. "More malfunctioning equipment." The bracelet's lights quickened, a subtle vibration starting. It was activating, likely environmental. He should shut it down, but first check the sequence. Manual override? Without warning, the bracelet's lights flared blindingly, emitting a shrill, high-pitched shriek. Startled, Grayson recoiled, foot snagging a loose cable. He stumbled, arm flailing, striking the warning barrier. The yellow tape snapped. He pitched forward into the gaping cave mouth. Ground vanished. He slid headlong down a steep, treacherous slope. His tablet flew, screen shattering against the cavern wall. The bracelet's shriek grew louder, its strobing light flashing wildly as he plunged deeper. This was it. Grayson Blake would die. Not in heroic defiance, but by an absurd, clumsy fall, clutching faulty lab gear. The irony stung. He hit bottom with a jarring, breath-stealing impact. For a stunned moment he lay still, assessing damage. Nothing broken, but ribs ached, shoulder screamed. The cursed bracelet remained attached, lights hammering a frantic staccato. "Brilliant," he gasped, struggling to sit. "Absolutely brilliant." Then he heard it, a low rumbling growl, echoing from the cave's depths. His blood ran cold. Blake hadn't mentioned wildlife, but Fonine might not be uninhabited. And whatever made that sound, it was hostile. Red eyes pierced the blackness, reflecting the bracelet's strobing beam. Then another pair, and another. Oh, hell. Creatures emerged, monstrous bear lizard hybrids, scales gleaming like oil, teeth honed into nightmare points. They moved with predatory grace, encircling him with chilling efficiency. Grayson scrambled backward, fingers closing around a loose rock. Futile, yet better than nothing. The bracelet's shriek reached a fever pitch, radiating alarming heat. The lid creature crouched, muscles coiling, ready to spring. A flash of purple and silver dropped from above, landing with breathtaking agility between Grayson and the predators. Shalia stood in fierce combat stance, hands aglow with crackling energy. She spoke in her alien tongue, voice ringing with unmistakable authority. The creatures hesitated, red eyes darting between her commanding form and Grayson. She spoke again, louder, energy intensifying. Instantly the beasts recoiled, melting back into shadows. "Are you injured?" Shalia asked, turning to him, violet eyes bright with adrenaline, a faint flush coloring her cheeks. A faint flush across her violet skin betrayed a primal satisfaction from their recent clash. "I'm fine," Grayson managed, pushing himself upright, a wince of bruised ego crossing his features. "Just my pride smarting. Thank you." Just then, the bracelet strapped to his wrist completed its final activation sequence with an abrupt, blinding surge. Its luminous lines flared one last, intense time, before the device unleashed a palpable wave of energy that washed over both of them. Grayson felt an inexplicable, shiver-inducing tingle, like raw static electricity coursing through his veins. For an instant, a foreign presence brushed against the edges of his mind, a fleeting, almost invasive connection that was utterly not his own. Shalia froze, her body going rigid, eyes widening in a mixture of horror and disbelief. "What did you do?" she demanded. "I don't know," Grayson stammered, staring down at the now darkened bracelet, though he could still feel its subtle thrum against his hip. "It just activated. I think it's some kind of bioscanner." "Bioscanner!" Shalia's voice escalated to a near shriek, laced with furious indignation. "You activated a biocompatibility device? Those are for testing lab animals. I am not a lab animal." A familiar, dangerous luminescence bloomed around her hands once more. For a terrifying heartbeat, Grayson feared she might reduce him to ash. "I am a Kalari warrior, not some test subject for your primitive experiments." "Hey, I didn't mean," he started, but she cut him off, her voice tightening with barely controlled fury. "The device has initiated a bonding protocol," she declared, the words biting. "According to ancient law, I am now temporarily obligated to remain in proximity to the designated caretaker for biological synchronization purposes." Grayson could only stare. "Caretaker? You, human!" She spat the word like a curse. "The device has registered you as my caretaker, and me as your—" She paused, her jaw clenching as if the word tasted foul, then forced it out. "Your companion animal? That's preposterous. You're obviously not an animal." "Tell that to your bracelet," Grayson mumbled, gesturing at the device, which now hummed with increased intensity. "It has analyzed my biology, compared it to its database, and determined that I am a suitable pet for a human caretaker." The word pet seemed to physically pain her, a visible tremor running through her frame. Grayson felt a sharp stab of guilt mixed with profound confusion. "Look, I'm sorry. I had no idea what this thing was. Can't we just turn it off?" "The protocol cannot be reversed until the bonding period is complete," she stated, her voice tight with suppressed rage. She closed her eyes, taking a deep, shuddering breath. "Minimum duration, 72 standard hours. 72 hours." Her voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "During which time I am biologically compelled to remain within close proximity to you." "And," she added, her eyes flashing open, filled with a tormented defiance, "I find that proximity disturbingly pleasant." Before Grayson could even formulate a response, Shalia moved. Her athletic form covered the distance between them in a blur. She seized his arm, her grip strong enough to leave bruises, and suddenly, they were both soaring through the air. A personal flight system, he realized. Anti-gravity generators subtly integrated into her suit. They burst from the cave's maw into the harsh, artificial glare of Sub-Level 3. Shalia set him down with perhaps more force than strictly necessary, her expression a volatile mix of anger and something else entirely. Perhaps confusion, even self-disgust. "This is intolerable," she muttered, pacing back and forth like a caged predator. "I am a researcher, a warrior, a citizen of the Kari Confederation. I cannot be some human's pet." "You're not my pet," Grayson said calmly, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "You're clearly an intelligent, capable person. This is just some kind of technical malfunction." "Technical malfunction?" She whirled on him, her silver hair catching the stark light, a tempest in her violet eyes. "Do you have any concept of what this bonding protocol entails? What it compels me to do?" "No, but," Grayson began. But she cut him off, the words spilling out, each one seemingly costing her a piece of her pride. "Proximity bonding, shared warmth, emotional synchronization. I am driven to seek your presence, to ensure your comfort, to—" she shuddered visibly, "to curl up in your lap, like some domesticated creature." Grayson's eyebrows shot up. "You want to curl up in my lap?" "I do not want to." The protest erupted louder than she'd intended, and she immediately lowered her voice, a flush creeping up her neck. "The protocol compels certain instinctual responses. I find myself drawn to your body heat, your scent, the very sound of your voice. It is humiliating." "It doesn't sound that bad," Grayson offered gently. It is not. She took a step closer, and he could see the profound confusion swirling in her violet eyes. I am not your pet, human. I am not some creature to be bonded and trained. And. Her voice trailed off as she seemed to fully register how close she'd gotten. They stood barely a foot apart, and he could smell her unique scent, something like cinnamon and ozone, with an underlying warmth that made his pulse quicken almost imperceptibly. I should go, she said, but she didn't move. Probably, Grayson agreed, yet he didn't step back either. They stood there for a long moment, the tension between them palpable, humming like the bracelet. The device pulsed softly, its lights beginning to glow once more, and Grayson could feel that strange connection in his mind, a presence that felt distinctly alien, yet paradoxically, somehow familiar. This is ridiculous, Shalea finally declared, breaking the silence. I am a warrior. I do not need a caretaker. Of course not, Grayson reassured her. I am perfectly capable of taking care of myself. Shalea huffed. Obviously. I certainly do not need to... She gestured vaguely at his chest, a flicker of bewildered longing in her eyes. To seek warmth from some primitive human. Right. The very idea. It's preposterous. Utterly preposterous. She edged closer, her gaze locked on his face, a silent challenge in her eyes. I am not your possession. A low, almost guttural declaration. I know that. The words were soft, yet firm. I am not some creature to be tamed, trained with treats and affection, she insisted. I understand that too. A quiet understanding. I am a free member of the Kalari Confederation, and I refuse to be reduced to some... Her voice faltered as her fingers tentatively brushed against the soft fabric of his shirt, resting against his chest. She felt the strong, rhythmic thump of his heart, a primal pulse against her palm, the subtle warmth radiating through the cloth. The bracelet sang louder, a compelling melody, the bonding protocol asserting itself, drawing her towards a connection she hadn't anticipated. Oh, she whispered, a mixture of awe and horror coloring her voice. Her eyes widened. Grayson, she said softly, her gaze locking with his, a chaotic blend of fascination and dread etched across her features. I can feel your heart beating. That's normal, isn't it? Not for me. She pressed her hand more firmly, seeking more of that strange connection. Kari rarely. We typically avoid physical contact with other species, yet I find myself drawn to your warmth, your scent, the resonance of your voice. Is it the protocol? A question, an appeal for logic in the face of mounting sensation. The protocol? He repeated. She gave a slow nod, her voice laced with disbelief. It must be the protocol. They stood there, frozen in time, alien and human, tethered by a device, a concept they barely grasped. The bracelet continued its gentle hum, a lullaby of connection, and Grayson felt that odd presence bloom in his mind. Not intrusive, but undeniably there, a soft warmth blooming in his awareness. So what do we do? He ventured, breaking the silence. Shalria seemed to gather herself, her hand still anchored to his chest. We endure, she declared, with a newfound resolve. 72 hours. I will uphold my dignity, and you will what? You won't exploit this situation. Her voice sharpened, a warning cutting through the air. I may be compelled to seek your proximity, but I remain a warrior. I am more than capable of defending myself. Wouldn't dream of it, he assured her with a sincere tone. Good, she murmured. She took a hesitant step back, though he noticed she didn't retreat far. I shall return to my quarters now. I will meditate on this temporary inconvenience and regain my composure. Sounds like a plan, he agreed. She turned, paused, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. Grayson? Yeah, he responded. Your atmospheric processor is functioning at optimal levels. The pressure fluctuations stemmed from a loose joint in the primary intake valve. The readings should be stable now. He gaped at her, a stunned expression on his face. How did you... I checked it while you were sliding down the mountain. A ghost of a smile played on her lips. Your methodology for problem-solving may be unrefined, but your diagnostic capabilities are adequate. And with that, she was gone, vanishing down the corridor, leaving Grayson alone with the humming bracelet and the dawning realization that his life had just taken a turn into uncharted territory. The main colony dome seemed suddenly suffocatingly small. Grayson slumped at his workstation, attempting to focus on the endless maintenance reports, but his mind kept drifting to the other side of the room, to where Shalria was supposedly engrossed in atmospheric research. For 3 hours, she had been there, movements precise and professional, yet he could sense her presence like a subtle electrical current running through his veins. The bracelet vibrated softly against his hip, the lights pulsing in a slow rhythm that mimicked the frantic beat of his heart. Every few minutes, he found himself stealing glances in her direction, and more often than not, he caught her doing the same. Fascinating, Dr. Blake observed, sauntering over to his station, a mug of steaming coffee in hand. I've never witnessed Kari behavior like this before. Like what? He asked, his tone carefully neutral. She's been here for hours. Usually they stick to their sector, only interact with us when absolutely necessary. Blake took a sip of her coffee, studying Shalria over the rim of the mug. Today, she's practically moved in, and she keeps looking at you like you're a particularly captivating specimen. Grayson's jaw tightened, a mix of annoyance and unease swirling within him. We had a professional interaction yesterday. Maybe she's just being polite. Kari don't do polite. They do professional. They do efficient. And they do politely distant. They don't do... Blake gestured towards Shalria, who was now meticulously rearranging her equipment with an almost obsessive attention to detail. Whatever this is, Blake continued with a sigh. What happened in Sublevel 3? Before Grayson could formulate a response, the coffee machine erupted in a series of discordant beeps and began dispensing something that resembled motor oil rather than caffeine. The automated barista's cheerful voice chimed, "Fresh coffee, hot and ready. Please enjoy your beverage." Son of a... Grayson was on his feet, reacting before he consciously registered the action. I just repaired this thing yesterday. He knelt beside the machine, summoning diagnostic screens on his tablet. The internal system seemed to be functioning normally, but something was clearly interfering with the brewing process. A swift scan unveiled the culprit. Someone had been subtly manipulating the molecular filter settings. Who's been tampering with my coffee machine? He demanded, his voice raised in exasperation. Your coffee machine? The voice was laced with amusement, melodious, and undeniably Kari. Shalria approached, her movements fluid and graceful. I hadn't realized human technicians claimed ownership of equipment. I meant the machine I just spent 4 hours diligently repairing. Grayson looked up, noting her subtle closeness. Did you adjust the molecular filters? I optimized them, she replied, her tone devoid of emotion. Your brewing process was inefficient. The molecular chains fractured at suboptimal temperatures, yielding bitter compounds and diminished nutritional value. It's coffee, not a health supplement. Coffee is a stimulant beverage derived from processed plant matter. Proper preparation enhances both flavor and physiological benefits. She knelt beside him, close enough for him to inhale her scent, that unique blend of cinnamon and ozone that seemed to bypass his rational thoughts, reaching directly for his primal instincts. Your settings were crude. That word again. It is an accurate description. She leaned in further, ostensibly to examine the machine's display. Human engineering often prioritizes function over true optimization. It functions, but it doesn't perform optimally. And Kari engineering is superior. Obviously, she reached past him, her arm brushing his shoulder as she adjusted a setting. The contact sent a jolt through the bracelet, and he felt that peculiar presence in his mind stir, like a distant echo. Though I confess your approach possesses certain practical advantages, being uncomplicated, direct. Sometimes the simplest solution is indeed the correct one. She met his gaze, her violet eyes alight with what might have been amusement, even if it lacks elegance. They were kneeling together, focused on the coffee machine, yet acutely aware of their shared space. The bracelet's hum intensified, and a comforting warmth spread through Grayson's chest, not unpleasant, but distinctly unusual. There, Shalria announced, making a final adjustment. The molecular filters are now properly calibrated. Your coffee will taste less like what was your phrase? Recycled boot leather. You were eavesdropping on my conversation with Dr. Blake. Kari possess excellent hearing. She rose, smoothing her clothing. We also possess excellent pattern recognition. Your coffee machine produced substandard beverages. You complained, and I rectified the deficiency. It's simple efficiency. Right. Efficiency. Grayson stood, testing the machine's recalibrated settings. The resulting coffee was, he grudgingly admitted, far superior to anything he had produced. Thanks. I suppose you are welcome. She paused, as if contemplating something. I should return to my research. Of course. But she remained, close enough for him to discern the intricate patterns of her silver tattoos, the way her hair shimmered under the artificial light. The bracelet pulsed, and he felt that mental connection strengthening, becoming more defined. Shalaria, yes. Are you feeling all right? She considered the question, her expression thoughtful. I am experiencing certain physiological anomalies. Elevated heart rate, increased sensitivity to environmental stimuli, a persistent desire to remain in close proximity to, she gestured vaguely at him, to heat sources. Heat sources? You radiate warmth, she explained, as if that settled everything. Kari body temperature is typically lower than human baseline. I find your thermal signature comforting. That's the protocol speaking. Yes, she confirmed, her voice tinged with uncertainty. It must be the protocol. An awkward silence settled between them, punctuated by the cheerful hum of the coffee machine. Other colony members moved about their daily tasks, but Grayson felt as if he and Shalaria were in a private world, isolated from everything else. I should leave, she stated finally. You keep saying that, and I keep meaning to. She took a step back, then halted. The atmospheric readings are irregular today. I may need to remain in the main dome for extended observation. Extended observation? Yes, purely for scientific purposes. She looked at him, her expression serious. It has nothing to do with the bonding protocol or your thermal signature. Of course not. I am conducting legitimate research. I believe you. Good. She turned to depart, then paused once more. Grayson. Yeah. If you require assistance with any other equipment malfunctions, I am available for consultation. I'll keep that in mind. She nodded briskly and returned to her workstation, but he noticed she had positioned herself to maintain a clear line of sight to his area. The bracelet continued its quiet humming, and he felt that peculiar presence in his mind, not invasive, but undeniably there, like a warm ember in his consciousness. Well, Dr. Blake said, appearing at his elbow with a fresh cup of coffee. That was illuminating. What was that? Her spending 10 minutes explaining why she doesn't want to be near you while standing close enough to check your pulse. Blake sipped her coffee, her expression thoughtful. And this coffee is truly extraordinary, isn't it? What have they done to it? They've optimized the molecular filters. Optimized? Blake's eyebrows shot up. Kari don't typically enhance human contraptions. They scarcely acknowledge human equipment's existence. She was merely being helpful. Blake, I've been collaborating with Kari for 3 years. They aren't helpful. They are efficient. They are professional. And they are politely condescending. They don't do... She gestured towards Shalaya, who was feigning a study of atmospheric data while discreetly observing them. Whatever this situation is, perhaps they're simply having a pleasant day, or maybe something transpired in sub-level 3 that you're withholding from me. Before Grayson could articulate a response, an alarm commenced blaring throughout the entire dome. Emergency illumination began to flash, and the colony's automated systems declared an atmospheric anomaly detection. All personnel are to proceed to their assigned emergency stations immediately. Damn it, Blake murmured, carefully setting her coffee down. That marks the 3rd incident this week. Whatever is precipitating these pressure shifts, the situation is escalating. Grayson was already making his way towards the emergency console, accessing system diagnostics. The atmospheric processors were exhibiting erratic readings across all 3 domes. While not critically dangerous, the deviations were certainly outside established norms. Pressures are diminishing in Dome C. He reported, backup systems are actively compensating, but we are rapidly depleting our reserves. At our present consumption rates, what is our remaining time frame? Potentially 8 hours before we must institute rationing measures. Blake cursed under her breath. Can you resolve it? I will need to examine the primary intake valves. Recalibrating the entire system might be necessary. He hesitated, comprehending the implications of that action. I must return to sub-level 3. That unstable sector houses the primary control systems. He surveyed the dome, observing the controlled anxiety etched onto the faces of the research personnel. I am capable of handling this. You are not going alone, Blake stated with conviction. Take someone with you, someone familiar with the subterranean infrastructure. I can navigate the maintenance conduits. Blake. Her voice carried the resonance of someone who had witnessed far too many avoidable calamities. "Obtain backup. That is a direct order. I will accompany him." They turned to find Shalaria approaching. Her expression was resolute. She had exchanged her research instruments for what appeared to be a field kit, equipped with climbing apparatus and some form of energy-based weapon. "That is not requisite," Grayson stated. "I can manage the maintenance tasks independently." "The subterranean systems are precarious," she responded. "You almost plunged into a mining chasm yesterday, and predatory entities inhabit the deeper tunnels. I shall exercise caution. You will have an escort." Her tone brooked no dissent. Kalari possess superior spatial discernment and combat proficiency. I am the most logical selection for this undertaking. Blake considered them both, her expression pensive. She speaks the truth. The Kari possess an intimate knowledge of those tunnels, surpassing any other. And considering yesterday's incident. "Very well," Grayson conceded, gathering his tools. "But I will be responsible for the technical operations." "Naturally," Shalia concurred. "My role is solely to provide assistance." "Assistance?" "Yes. Logistical support, safety assurance, thermal backup if conditions demand it." She paused, as if realizing her own phrasing. "For purposes of optimal efficiency." "Right. Efficiency." They proceeded through the interconnected tunnels towards sub-level 3. The emergency illumination cast stark, elongated shadows along the walls. Grayson carried his diagnostic equipment, while Shalia moved with an effortless fluidity, characteristic of someone entirely comfortable within constricted spaces. The bracelet emanated a more insistent hum as they advanced, and he could perceive that peculiar mental presence intensifying. "The atmospheric disturbances are concentrated in this particular section," Shalria informed him, consulting a portable scanner. "Something is impeding the natural air circulation patterns. It could be a blocked intake, or perhaps one of the processors is experiencing irregular cycling." Grayson reviewed his tablet, noting the volatile readings. "We will need to inspect each valve manually." They arrived at the central maintenance zone, the very location where yesterday's unforeseen event had commenced. The warning barricades had been reinstalled, yet the cavernous opening remained, gaping like a maw in the rocky facade. Grayson endeavored to suppress thoughts of the creatures with crimson eyes lurking within the abyssal darkness below. "The primary intake valve is functioning as intended," Shalaria reported, directing her scanner across the massive machinery. "However, an unusual energy signature is emanating from deeper within the system. Unusual in what manner? Electromagnetic interference. Something is generating a field that is disrupting the atmospheric processor sensors." She peered intently at her readings, a frown creasing her brow. "The source appears to be situated approximately 50 meters beneath our current position." Grayson's spirits plummeted. Within the cave network. They regarded the warning barriers, both acutely aware of the inevitable course of action. The colony's air supply was steadily deteriorating, and the origin of the issue lay somewhere within the subterranean passages. There was no alternative but to descend and rectify it. "I will go," Grayson declared. "You can monitor from this vantage point. No." Shala's voice was firm. "Protocol mandates that to remain by your side. I cannot countenance your solo entry into such peril." "The protocol?" Her voice, however, held a tremor of uncertainty, an uncharacteristic break in her usual composure. "Indeed, it would be profoundly distressing to find myself separated from you within a perilous environment." "Distressing? No, merely physiologically uncomfortable." Her gaze flickered away, a telltale flush creeping swiftly up her neck. "I find my internal metrics registering a heightened state of concern for your well-being." "You're concerned about me?" "The protocol, as you are aware," she interjected, her words coming in a rush, "generates purely artificial emotional responses. It is not genuine concern. It is merely a pre-programmed directive, a calculated response to potential harm befalling the designated bonded individual." "Right. Programmed," he echoed, a hint of amusement in his tone. "Precisely," she affirmed, perhaps a little too emphatically. With a practiced motion, she adjusted her equipment, her hand briefly resting on her energy weapon. "Shall we proceed, then?" Together, they began their descent into the labyrinthine cave system, tracking the persistent electromagnetic signature ever deeper into Faranine's hidden, subterranean network. These ancient tunnels, eons older than the colony itself, bore the eloquent scars of water and immense geological forces. Though the main passages were illuminated by sparse emergency lighting, countless side tunnels branched off, vanishing ominously into impenetrable darkness. "The energy signature is intensifying significantly here," Shalia reported, her voice hushed as they squeezed through a particularly narrow passage. "Whatever is generating this interference, we are remarkably close." "How close?" Grayson murmured. "Very close indeed." She halted abruptly, her scanner emitting a rapid, insistent series of beeps. "The source is directly ahead," she announced, but a subtle frown creased her brow as she studied the readings. "This is highly unusual." "What's unusual?" he pressed. "The energy signature," she elaborated slowly, "is not technological in origin. It appears to be profoundly biological." Rounding a final bend, they emerged into a vast, awe-inspiring cavern. Its colossal walls glowed softly, adorned with what appeared to be bioluminescent moss, casting an ethereal, emerald light. The air hung heavy and humid, thick with the scent of damp earth, and in the echoing distance, the faint murmur of subterranean water could be heard. But it was the dramatic centerpiece of the cavern that instantly arrested their gaze, freezing them both in place. From the very heart of the cavern floor, a magnificent cluster of crystalline formations ascended, their facets gently pulsing with an internal, soft blue light. The crystals possessed an undeniable, almost hypnotic beauty, yet an unsettling quality permeated them, an eerie sense of their conscious response to their arrival. "Bioluminescent crystal formations," Shalia breathed, a note of pure wonder in her voice. "I have never witnessed anything remotely like this." Her brow furrowed. "Are they alive?" "The pervasive energy readings certainly indicate some highly organized form of biological activity," she confirmed, stepping cautiously towards the shimmering structures, her scanner extended like a divining rod. "They are evidently generating potent electromagnetic pulses, precisely the kind that would disrupt electronic systems." A flicker of understanding crossed Grayson's face. "That explains the atmospheric processor malfunctions." He swiftly deployed his diagnostic equipment, striving to obtain a precise reading on the crystal's unusual energy output. "But how do we possibly rectify this without causing them irreparable harm?" "We don't," Shalia stated unequivocally, her gaze still fixed on her scanner readings. "These magnificent formations are, in all probability, fundamental to this planet's delicate ecosystem. Indeed, they could be directly responsible for the unique atmospheric conditions that render Farron habitable for us." "So we can't simply deactivate them?" he clarified. "That would be catastrophic and profoundly inadvisable," she affirmed, her striking violet eyes alight with incandescent scientific curiosity as she met his gaze. "However, we might be able to implement shielding to protect the atmospheric processors from their disruptive interference." For the next hour, they worked in seamless tandem, a testament to their complementary skills. Shalia's intricate advanced sensors continuously fed data, while Grayson ingeniously deciphered how to adapt and modify the processor shielding. It was a true collaboration, demanding the full extent of both their unique expertise. And despite the inherent dangers and urgency of their situation, Grayson realized, almost to his surprise, that he was profoundly enjoying this unexpected partnership. "Your methodological approach is surprisingly sophisticated," Shalia conceded, her voice a low murmur as they meticulously calibrated the new shielding parameters. "I confess, I had anticipated a more rudimentary trial-and-error methodology." "Disappointed?" Grayson teased gently. "Or perhaps impressed?" She allowed herself a fleeting glance at him before swiftly looking away. Human engineering, though often inelegant, possesses an undeniable capacity for creativity, a peculiar form of innovation. "Creative," he echoed. "You devise solutions that a Kalari might simply dismiss as illogical, or entirely overlook. We as a species strive for peak efficiency and aesthetic elegance, yet sometimes the theoretically optimal solution is not, in fact, the most practically effective one." She paused, appearing to weigh her words carefully. "Sometimes, a certain crudeness proves superior." "High praise indeed, from a Kalari," Grayson grinned. "Don't let it inflate your ego too much." Yet beneath her dry wit, he detected a genuine note of humor in her voice, and something else entirely. Perhaps warmth. With the modifications complete, they initiated the final system test. Instantly, the atmospheric processors stabilized, their vital readings swiftly returning to optimal parameters. The colony's life-sustaining air supply was secure, and the captivating crystal formations continued their silent, beautiful alien dance within the cavern. Success, Shalia declared softly, performing one last meticulous check of her scanner. The electromagnetic interference has been completely neutralized, with no detrimental impact to the indigenous biological systems. Excellent work, Grayson responded, a sense of relief in his voice as he began to pack away his equipment. We really do make a formidable team. We are adequate partners, she stated, shouldering her own gear with a deliberate motion. Yet he observed she made no move to depart. The collaborative process was not entirely unpleasant. Not entirely unpleasant, he echoed, a smile playing on his lips. Indeed, I confess I may have significantly underestimated human technical capabilities. Her gaze met his, her expression now strikingly serious, devoid of any attempt at a typical Kalari mask. And I fear I may have gravely overestimated my own capacity to maintain appropriate professional distance. Professional distance, he repeated, intrigued by her sudden openness. The protocol, as you know, instills certain powerful compulsions. But I find myself inexplicably drawn to your presence, to your warmth, your... She gestured vaguely, her hand wavering. Your unique thermal signature, yes, just your thermal signature, and your particular scent. The admission seemed to catch even her by surprise, a momentary flash of shock in her violet eyes. And the very sound of your voice when you are deeply concentrating, and the way you approach challenges with relentless tenacity, not elegant answers, which is quite specific. The protocol is incredibly detailed. She moved closer, close enough for him to trace the complex designs of her silver markings. I'm fascinated by human physicality, their habits, their very essence. Her fingers grazed his arm, a light touch, human warmth. The bracelet pulsed, a mental tether tightening within Grayson's mind, like standing beside a roaring bonfire, warm, reassuring, yet almost too intense. He sensed her consciousness intertwined with his, not an invasion, but a constant, gentle presence, like a secondary pulse. Shalaria. Yes. Are you certain this is purely protocol? She paused, her hand still on his skin, considering the question. My certainty wavers more than it did yesterday. What does that imply? It signifies, she looked up, her violet eyes catching the crystal's azure glow, that the boundary between protocol and my own reactions is becoming indistinct in that alien cavern, surrounded by luminous crystals and the distant murmur of water. They stood. The bracelet vibrated softly, and Grayson felt that intangible connection in his thoughts, not controlling, but guiding, like a gentle tide pulling him toward an unknown destination. We should return, he stated. Dr. Blake will require an update. Naturally, but Shalia remained still, stepping even nearer, close enough that the heat from her skin was palpable, although I find leaving this place rather unwelcome. Why? It offers tranquility, a private space. The other settlers cannot observe us or misinterpret our interactions. She surveyed the cavern, a thoughtful expression on her face. I can speak truthfully about the protocol's effects without concern for my standing. And what effects are those? I desire your proximity, she admitted plainly. I wish to touch you, to share your warmth, to... She hesitated, as if the words were difficult. To nestle against you, like a tamed creature. That doesn't sound so dreadful. It feels humiliating. Yet her voice lacked genuine conviction. I am a Kalari warrior. Snuggling is not in my nature. You don't snuggle. Kari avoid casual physical contact. We are not a tactile species. She met his gaze, confusion evident. But I find myself drawn to your touch, your very presence. I yearn to, she gestured helplessly. I yearn to enfold myself around you like a living cloak. The protocol? The protocol? She conceded, but her tone was hesitant. It must be the protocol. Grayson extended his hand, his fingers brushing her cheek. Her skin felt warm, surprisingly soft, and he could detect her pulse under his touch. And what if it isn't? Then I face significant trouble. Why? Because Kalari do not fall for primitive humans. She leaned into his touch, her eyes closing for a fleeting moment. We do not find their blunt problem-solving methods endearing. We do not appreciate their unyielding determination, their thermal signatures, or their inclination to endanger themselves for others. You find me endearing? I find you infuriating. Her eyes opened, revealing an expression that hinted at affection, warmth, and surprising capability. And then she paused, as if confessing something painful. And I believe I am developing genuine feelings for you, entirely separate from the protocol. Shelaria, please refrain from speaking, she urged quickly. Do not complicate matters further. I am obligated to you for 72 hours. I can withstand the protocol's effects for that duration, but if you force me to admit this is more than simulated connection. She shook her head. The humiliation will be unbearable. What if I confessed to developing feelings as well? Then we would both be in jeopardy. They stood in the crystal cavern, alien and human, bound by technology and something more profound. The bracelet pulsed between them, and Grayson felt that presence in his mind, not dominating, but undeniably present, like a warm enclave within his consciousness that seemed to synchronize with her heartbeat. We should head back, Shala finally said, before I act in a way we might both regret. Like what? Like this. She rose onto her toes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was brief, uncertain, but it sent a jolt through the bracelet, causing them both to gasp. For an instant, Grayson experienced everything she felt. Confusion, yearning, apprehension, and a nascent flicker of hope. The connection was overwhelming, an intimacy that transcended physical contact. Oh, Shalia murmured as they parted. That was unexpected. The protocol? Absolutely not the protocol. She looked at him, her face a mixture of awe and alarm. The protocol doesn't account for emotional resonance. Emotional resonance. I can feel your emotions, your thoughts, your... She placed a hand over her chest, as if trying to contain something. Your affection for me, and I sense yours. This presents a challenge. Does it? Yes, she confirmed. But she refused to retreat, for I now understand this is far beyond mere protocol. It's not simply artificial bonding or a biological imperative. This, she struggled for words. This is genuine. And that, my friend, presents a significant challenge. It's a quandary because I am meant to be a distinguished Kalari warrior, not some... She gestured, flustered. Not some lovesick creature longing to nestle in your lap. My lap, your lap. You are not my anything, she declared, her protest louder than intended, her voice softening immediately. You are a rudimentary technician, with dubious professional standards and a penchant for activating devices without consulting the user manual. Yet, I find myself drawn to you. Her gaze met his, her violet eyes shimmering with unshed tears. I lack the framework to comprehend this sensation. Perhaps processing isn't necessary, Grayson suggested softly. Perhaps acceptance is all that's required. Accept what? That sometimes the most unrefined solutions yield the best results. He extended his hand, covering hers. That often, the most straightforward answer is indeed the correct one. And what is that straightforward answer? Simply put, I find you appealing. You find me appealing? And we're inextricably bound for the next 72 hours regardless, so why not embrace it? Shalora observed him, her expression a whirlwind of bewilderment, apprehension, and a glimmer of something akin to hope. You wish to savor the bonding protocol? I wish to savor your companionship, he clarified. Protocol or no protocol, even if I am compelled to remain near you, to seek solace in your presence like some domesticated being. Especially then. She studied him for a long, silent moment before a sigh escaped her. You intend to make this exceedingly difficult, do you not? Most likely. I am not your pet. I understand. I am a formidable Kalari warrior. Absolutely. I do not indulge in cuddling. Of course not. Excellent. She moved closer, her warmth radiating towards him. Close enough that I can claim I'm merely adhering to the bonding protocol's requirements. I am not enjoying your company, nor finding your presence comforting, nor wishing to... She gestured vaguely. Explore human thermoregulation. Your secret is entirely safe with me. It had better be. She surveyed the crystalline cavern one last time, then her gaze shifted towards the passage leading back to the colony. We should depart. Dr. Blake will expect a comprehensive report. Indeed, the status report. Gathering their gear, they commenced their journey back through the tunnels. Yet an undeniable shift had occurred between them. The underlying tension persisted, but its nature had transformed. It was no longer the awkward unease of forced proximity, but the vibrant current of mutual attraction. The bracelet pulsed with a gentle hum, and Grayson sensed the mental tether settling into something remarkably familiar. Grayson, Shalora spoke as they reached the central maintenance sector. Yes, upon our return to the colony, I may find it necessary to remain close to you, citing protocol as justification. I understand. And I may occasionally seek out your thermal signature for purposes of biological synchronization. That makes perfect sense. And if by chance I find myself resting in your lap during our debriefing, she hesitated, as if the words were a struggle. It will be entirely involuntary, a direct consequence of the bonding protocol. Entirely involuntary, Grayson affirmed. Good. She met his gaze, her expression entirely serious. Because I am not your pet, Grayson Blake. I am a Kalari warrior, and I do not cuddle. I would never presume such a thing. Excellent. She turned towards the exit, then paused. However, I must caution you, the protocol might trigger certain protective instincts. If anyone at the colony makes any unwelcome remarks regarding our situation, I may be compelled to defend your honor. My honor, the protocol establishes a profound connection between caretaker and companion. Threats directed at one are perceived as threats to both. She glanced back, her violet eyes gleaming with a hint of playful defiance. I may become territorial. Territorial? Purely hypothetically, she continued up the tunnel, calling back over her shoulder. For instance, if that robotic barista persists in her flirtations with you, I might be obliged to revise her personality matrix. Shalora, what I said was hypothetical. Grayson followed, the bracelet a cheerful presence against his hip. 72 hours had never felt so fleeting nor so expansive, but watching Shalora's elegant form disappear into the artificial luminescence of the main dome, he found himself contemplating that perhaps, just perhaps, the most unrefined solutions held the greatest merit. After all, sometimes the simplest answer is the most accurate one. He liked her, she liked him, and their confinement was a shared reality, regardless of their desires. The protocol might have initiated their connection, but the unfolding events were entirely their own to shape. And judging by the expression in Shalora's eyes within the crystal cavern, the ensuing 72 hours promised to be exceptionally compelling. The debriefing meeting was intended to be a routine affair. Dr. Blake had summoned the senior staff to deliberate on the resolution of the atmospheric crisis, a task. Grayson's technical report was ready, but he was unprepared when Shalora settled beside him, a warmth radiating from her skin. The electromagnetic interference is neutralized, she stated professionally, her voice devoid of emotion. The crystalline formations are biological, vital to the planet's ecosystem. We've implemented shielding to prevent future processor conflicts. Blake acknowledged her work. Excellent. Any chance of the interference returning? Grayson replied, Minimal. The new shielding should manage any crystal energy fluctuations. As he spoke, a foreign, pleasant warmth bloomed in his mind, like a gentle fire igniting his consciousness. His bracelet hummed. He glanced at Shalora, her intense gaze fixed on him. Interesting. A voice not his own whispered in his thoughts. Your neural patterns are more complex than anticipated. Grayson nearly choked on his coffee. Blake, concerned, repeated the question about interference. Right. Minimal chance, he stammered, his gaze returning to Shalora, who now avoided his eyes. The solution should be permanent. The meeting continued, but Grayson struggled to focus, the mental warmth intensifying, bringing with it alien emotions, curiosity, confusion, and a distinct hint of amusement. You can hear me, the intruding voice observed it. Fascinating. Humans are not supposed to be telepathically receptive. Grayson's heart pounded, but he remained outwardly calm. Shalora's head shot up, her violet eyes wide with shock. Your cardiovascular system is responding to stress, she continued, and he was certain the voice was hers. Are you experiencing discomfort? I'm experiencing the impossible, he thought back, unsure if she could hear. Not impossible. Improbable, the mental voice replied, laced with amusement. The bonding protocol appears more comprehensive than anticipated. Blake's voice broke through their silent exchange. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just tired, Grayson managed, forcing a smile. Long day underground. Right, well, get some rest. Both of you did excellent work today. Blake dismissed the meeting, asking Shalora to pass compliments to her team, noting the collaboration's unexpected success. Shalora agreed, but her focus remained on Grayson. As others left, she lingered. So, Grayson said, once they were alone, telepathy, that's new. Kari are naturally telepathic within our own species, Shalora explained, her voice carefully controlled. The bonding protocol must have created a neural bridge between us. A neural bridge? A temporary connection, allowing limited mental communication. It should fade when the protocol expires, theoretically. She stood, smoothing her clothes. I should return to my quarters. The day has been taxing. As she neared the door, Grayson felt a sharp pang of loneliness, or perhaps disappointment, so strong it made him gasp. Shallura paused, her hand on the frame. Are you experiencing distress? I'm fine. Your emotional state suggests otherwise. She turned back, her violet eyes bright with concern. I can feel your discomfort. You can feel my emotions? The neural bridge works both ways. She took a step closer, and the loneliness receded. I am aware of your mental state, just as you are apparently aware of mine. This is getting complicated. Indeed. She studied him, then decided. Perhaps it would be advisable for me to remain nearby to monitor the effects of the neural bridge. Monitor? For scientific purposes, she added quickly. The telepathic connection is unprecedented between our species. It warrants careful observation. Right. Scientific observation. Exactly. She moved closer, close enough for him to catch her scent, a mix of cinnamon and ozone that bypassed his reason. I will need to remain in close proximity to gather accurate data. How close? Very close. I may need to share your quarters for observation purposes. Share my quarters? The neural bridge appears to be strongest when we are in physical proximity. If I am to study its effects properly, I will need to remain nearby at all times. At all times? During sleep cycles, meal periods, work shifts. She paused, considering. I may need to monitor your dreams. My dreams? The subconscious mind often reveals informa. She looked away, a faint flush coloring her neck, her words a defensive shield. It's purely scientific inquiry, of course, she assured him, her voice carefully neutral. I wouldn't dream of suggesting anything inappropriate. He acknowledged her statement with a nod, and she met his gaze again, her violet eyes alight with a spark that hinted at amusement. Though I should warn you, Kari require minimal sleep, she continued, her tone shifting subtly. I may be restless during the night hours. Restless? He questioned. I may need to move around, she explained, her gaze steady. To check on your vital signs, ensure the neural bridge remains stable. I may need to curl up near you for warmth. For warmth? He echoed, a touch of surprise in his voice. The neural bridge seems to be influenced by body temperature, she elaborated, her explanation precise. Shared thermal regulation may be necessary for optimal data collection. Shared thermal regulation. Yes. She stepped closer, the warmth of her presence a tangible sensation. I may need to snuggle. He blinked, taken aback. I thought Kari didn't snuggle. We don't, she stated firmly. But this is science. Grayson's quarters, usually spacious, suddenly felt constrained. Shalia had arrived earlier with minimal belongings and a tablet filled with research protocols, yet she'd spent much of the time pacing like a creature confined. The neural bridge is definitely stronger in confined spaces, she observed, her attention on her tablet. Proximity enhances the telepathic connection. Is that good or bad? He asked, intrigued. Scientifically speaking, it is fascinating, she replied, then paused her pacing to look at him where he sat on his narrow bed. Personally speaking, it is disconcerting. Disconcerting, she elaborated. I can feel your emotions with unusual clarity. Your confusion, your attraction, she gestured vaguely, your amusement at my discomfort. I'm not amused, he countered, though he knew he was. You are definitely amused, she insisted, her posture rigid as she settled onto the small chair opposite him. You find my attempts to maintain scientific objectivity entertaining. I find them admirable, he admitted. Admirable? You're trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. I respect that, he said, leaning forward, his movement drawing her gaze. But maybe some things don't need to make sense. Everything needs to make sense, she replied, her voice firm. The universe operates according to logical principles. Even the bonding protocol, however unexpected, follows established patterns of biological imperative. He gestured between them, indicating the invisible current that pulsed in the air. And what about this? What established pattern explains why I can hear your thoughts? Electromagnetic resonance, she responded quickly. The bracelet created a sympathetic vibration between our neural networks, and the emotional connection, empathic feedback loops. The telepathic bridge allows for shared emotional states. She paused, her cheeks flushing a deeper purple. And the fact that you're sitting there trying not to climb into my lap. That is purely biological. Purely. She elaborated. The bonding protocol creates artificial attachment behaviors, physical proximity, shared warmth, protective instincts. It is not genuine affection. She looked at him, a hint of desperation in her violet eyes. Are you sure? He asked softly. I am certain, she declared, but her voice lacked conviction, and he could feel her uncertainty radiating through the neural bridge. Kari do not develop romantic attachments to primitive species. Primitive, she clarified. Technologically primitive, culturally primitive, emotionally primitive. She stood, resuming her restless pacing. Your species has barely achieved interstellar travel. You still wage wars over resource distribution. You form pair bonds based on physical attraction rather than genetic compatibility. Sounds terrible, he remarked dryly. It is inefficient. She stopped, looking at him thoughtfully. Though I admit your approach to problem-solving has certain practical advantages. You are not constrained by conventional wisdom. You improvise. You adapt. She searched for the word. You make crude solutions, work through sheer determination. High praise from a Kalari, he observed. It is an accurate assessment. She moved closer, as if drawn by an unseen force. Your species may be primitive, but you are resourceful and warm. She stood directly before him now, close enough for him to see the intricate silver patterns of her tattoos. You generate significant thermal energy. And you like thermal energy. I require thermal energy for optimal neural function. She looked down at him, her expression serious. The neural bridge seems to be enhanced by physical contact. I may need to conduct proximity experiments. Proximity experiments? To test the limits of the telepathic connection, she explained, sitting on the edge of his bed, carefully maintaining a small distance. I will need to gradually increase physical contact and monitor the effects. That sounds very scientific. It is completely scientific, she affirmed, turning to face him, her warmth enveloping him. There is nothing personal about it. Nothing personal. Nothing. She reached out, her fingers lightly brushing his arm. The neural bridge immediately intensified, and he felt her emotions flood him. A peculiar sensation pulsed through the neural link, a tantalizing blend of curiosity, longing, veiled apprehension, and a deeper yearning she fought to suppress. Fascinating, she breathed, her voice betraying a hint of nervousness. Direct skin contact amplifies the connection significantly. I perceive your pulse, your body temperature. She hesitated, a delicate flush creeping up her neck. Your arousal, and undeniably, my own. However, this is strictly physiological, she declared quickly, her words precise. Elevated heart rate, increased blood flow, hormonal shifts, standard biological responses, normal for your species. Stepping closer, her leg brushed against his. Kari do not yield to such primal urges. Naturally, we are more evolved, more composed. Her fingers, still resting on his arm, traced the delicate weave of his shirt. We would never allow base desires to impair judgment. Admirable, to be sure, and entirely logical, she insisted. Gazing into his eyes, her own violet depths shone with something that defied logic. Yet I find myself increasingly intrigued by human physiology. Intrigued? Your thermal regulation mechanisms are quite remarkable. The way you generate heat through muscular exertion, the manner in which your skin facilitates thermal energy transfer. She leaned in, her breath a warm whisper against his neck. A more thorough examination is clearly warranted. Detailed observation coupled with tactile analysis. Her hand moved to his chest, pressing gently against his shirt. I may require closer examination of your thermal signature. For science. For science, she affirmed, her voice husky, the undercurrent of desire now palpable through the neural bridge. However, she warned, the examination may require intimate contact, direct skin-to-skin contact to achieve precise thermal transfer measurements, she added, her expression earnest despite the crimson tide rising in her cheeks. I may need to share your warmth for optimal data acquisition. Almost a whisper now, her face mere inches from his, she continued, I may need to press against you to carefully monitor cardiovascular responses. Monitor my cardiovascular responses? Precisely. Leaning in further, her lips almost touched his ear. I may need to snuggle. I thought Kari didn't snuggle. We do not, she stated firmly, already shifting closer, her body molding against his side. This is purely scientific inquiry. Purely scientific. Exactly. Settling against him, her head rested lightly on his shoulder. Although I must concede, your thermal signature is unexpectedly pleasant. Unexpectedly pleasant. Comfortable. Soothing, he echoed softly. Her soft violet gaze found his. I find myself reluctant to move away. It must be the neural bridge. The neural bridge? He questioned. Yes, she agreed, her voice laced with uncertainty. It must be. They fell into a comfortable silence, the neural bridge humming between them like a living entity. Grayson felt her contentment, her tranquility, and a deeper longing she still desperately fought to deny. The bracelet pulsed gently, and he couldn't help wondering what would transpire when the 72 hours elapsed. Grayson, Shelria murmured softly. Yes. I may require sleeping arrangements here tonight for observation purposes, she stated, matter-of-factly. Of course, I will occupy minimal space. Kari can achieve quite complicated sleeping positions. She paused, then added, I may also need to curl up against you for warmth, for optimal neural bridge maintenance. Her expression was utterly serious as she continued, I may need to wrap myself around you like a living blanket. That sounds very scientific. It is completely scientific. Shifting slightly, she settled more comfortably against him. Though I must warn you, I may become possessive during sleep cycles. Possessive? The bonding protocol instills strong protective instincts. I may need to guard you from potential threats. What kind of threats? Other females, competing thermal sources, anyone attempting to interfere with our connection. Her violet eyes flashed, possibly a warning. I may become territorial. Territorial? Hypothetically speaking, should anyone attempt to flirt with you or offer alternate sources of warmth, I may be compelled to intervene, she stated. Intervene, forcefully. She settled against him, her arm wrapping around his waist. For scientific purposes, of course. Of course. Good. Closing her eyes, her breathing gradually slowed. Now, if you will excuse me, I need to monitor your sleep patterns. Monitor my sleep patterns? Yes, by sleeping next to you. Very closely, she clarified. Looking up at him one last time, her expression was serious. It is purely scientific inquiry. Purely scientific. Exactly, she affirmed, closing her eyes again, her body relaxing against his. Though I must admit, this is the most comfortable scientific inquiry I have ever conducted. The supply run to the outer research station was supposed to be routine. Dr. Blake needed atmospheric readings from the remote monitoring posts, and Grayson needed to service the automated systems that kept the outposts operational. It was perfect busy work for someone trying to maintain professional distance. From his telepathically linked Kilari research partner, increasingly possessive, Shalria declared, accompanying you, as he loaded equipment. Scientific purposes, she insisted. The neural bridge needs ongoing observation. Extended separation risks data loss, disruption, possibly psychological trauma. She entered the transport gracefully. I cannot compromise the research. Right. They drove through Faranine's alien terrain, twin suns casting amber light. Grayson felt Shalria's presence acutely. The neural bridge strengthened, her emotions a constant hum curiosity, contentment, and a denied depth. Your driving is adequate, she noted, watching him maneuver around crystalline formations. Not elegant, but functional. You compensate with creative steering, treating the transport as alive. She studied him. Surprisingly effective. High praise from a Kalari. Accurate assessment. She gazed at the landscape thoughtfully. Your species has an interesting relationship with technology. You don't just use machines, you partner with them, anthropomorphize them, assign personalities. You tape a photo of Earth to the console and form emotional connections with inanimate objects. It's inefficient, she paused, but oddly effective. Your machines work better when treated as individuals, not tools. Perhaps everything works better that way. Even bonding protocols? The question hung, charged with her hope. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe some things are more than the sum of their parts. An interesting hypothesis. They reached the first monitoring station, an automated outpost collecting atmospheric data. Grayson began routine maintenance. Atmospheric readings are irregular, Shalria observed, studying the displays. Pressure fluctuations, temperature variations. Something's affecting the local environment. Another crystal formation? Grayson suggested, checking power. Electromagnetic interference might be disrupting sensors. Possibly. She frowned at her scanner. But the energy signature is different. More aggressive. Aggressive? Hostile? Predatory. She scanned the barren landscape, alert. We should finish maintenance quickly. Grayson nodded, focusing. He felt Shalria's tension through the bridge, her unease infectious. There, he said, closing the last panel. All systems operational. Good. We should stop, she interrupted, head snapping up. Do you hear that? Grayson listened, hearing only wind. Then the neural bridge pulsed, and he sensed it. Movement. Something large approaching fast. What is it? Predators. Multiple contacts. She moved, energy weapon in hand. They are hunting. Hunting what? Us. Creatures poured over the ridge like a living wave, larger, more aggressive than cave dwellers. Their red eyes blazed. They moved with pack precision. The transport! Grayson yelled, but they were cut off. The monitoring station, Shalria said, backing toward it. We can use it for cover. They reached it as the first creature attacked. Shalria's weapon blazed, but there were too many. The station's walls shook. The structure will not hold, she reported calmly. These creatures are more powerful than the ones in the caves. How many? At least 20, possibly more. She fired again, but they kept coming. My weapon has limited power. I can... The monitoring station, crafted from standard Earth technology, wasn't built for defense, but perhaps that was its strength. Crude, functional solutions over elegant ones. Grayson, eyes darting around the cramped space, mind a whirlwind, approached the control panel. The atmospheric processors, he stated. They're designed to handle pressure differentials. Shalria's question, what are you thinking, was met with his declaration, creative problem solving. As his fingers danced over the controls, rerouting power, he explained, these stations withstand atmospheric storms, boasting emergency pressure release systems to prevent structural damage. You want to vent the atmosphere, she realized. I want to create a pressure wave, he clarified, his gaze serious. It's crude, but it might work. Might work. We'll find out. With modifications complete, he reached for the emergency release. You might want to brace yourself. The resulting wave struck with physical force, radiating outward, scattering the attacking creatures and shattering their coordination. The deafening sound vibrated through the air, momentarily shimmering with released energy. When silence returned, the creatures were gone, the station intact, its internal structure shielded by emergency systems. Shalria stared, violet eyes wide with awe. That was brilliant. Crude. Effective. Holstering her weapon, she moved closer. You used the station's systems against them. Turned a research outpost into a weapon. I just redirected some pressure valves. You improvised a solution I'd never have considered. Her fingers brushed his arm. Your approach to problem solving is remarkable. Remarkable. Creative. Unexpected. Her expression grew serious. You are not as primitive as I assumed. Thanks. That was intended as a compliment. She moved closer, silver tattoos intricate against her skin. You saved my life with nothing but crude, human engineering. And your phrase? Sheer stubborn determination. Something like that. She paused. It was impressive. You are impressive. Her voice softened. I have been wrong about your species. About you specifically. You are not primitive. You are adaptive, resourceful, brave. I'm just a technician. You are more than that. Her fingers traced his jawline. You are charming by any species standards. Charming, attractive, appealing. Her violet eyes shone with more than scientific curiosity. I find myself drawn to you, and not just because of the bonding protocol. Not just because of the protocol. The protocol may have initiated the connection. But what I feel now... She hesitated. What I feel now is genuine affection. Genuine affection. Romantic attachment. Emotional investment. A blush crept up her neck. I am falling for you, Grayson Blake. You're falling for me against all logic, Against all cultural conditioning. Against all— She gestured helplessly. All common sense. And that's bad. It is terrifying. She looked at him, vulnerable. I am a Kalari warrior. I am not supposed to develop romantic feelings for primitive humans. I'm not that primitive. You are not primitive at all, she stated firmly. You are clever, and brave, and warm. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And I think I may be in love with you. You think. I know. She moved closer, his skin prickling with her breath. I love your determination. I love your creativity. I love the way you treat machines like living things, and the way you solve problems through sheer stubborn refusal to give up. And I love the way you make me feel. Her fingers tangled in his hair. Safe, warm, wanted, desired, cherished. Her violet eyes welled with unshed tears. I have never felt this way about anyone, and it terrifies me. Why? Because it means the bonding protocol was not just artificial compulsion. It was a catalyst. It brought us together. But what we have now is real, and that's terrifying. It is wonderful, she said simply, and that terrifies me more than anything. Before he could respond, she kissed him, her lips soft and warm. The neural bridge blazed to life. He felt everything she was feeling: love, desire, fear, hope, an overwhelming tangle of emotion. I am not your pet, she whispered against his lips. I know. I am not some creature to be bonded and trained. I know I am a Kalari warrior, and I choose to be with you. Her gaze met his, a complex tapestry of defiance and tenderness woven within. Not duty, not biology, but desire guides me. I wish only for your well-being. She nestled closer, her head finding rest upon his shoulder. We still possess 24 precious hours under the bonding protocol, hours I intend to savor completely. Then, lifting her gaze, violet eyes alight with a spark of playful rebellion, she added, Afterward, we will discover if love can overcome ancient Kalari law. And if it falters, we shall forge our own. A gentler kiss followed, a soft promise against his lips. Sometimes, the most straightforward answer is the truth. I love you. You love me. The rest are mere distractions. As they sat amidst the fractured remnants of the monitoring station, the alien beauty of Faraheim unfolding around them, Grayson realized the profound simplicity of her words. Perhaps love truly was the key to unlocking even the most intricate dilemmas. The neural bridge between them now pulsed not with confusion, but with the joyous rhythm of connection. And for the first time since the bracelet's activation, Grayson wasn't counting down the remaining hours. He was now dreading their conclusion. As Farron's amber mists parted, the Kari research outpost emerged, a vision that seemed to have sprung from the depths of a fever dream. Crystalline metal spires pierced the alien sky, their surfaces alive with shimmering holographic displays and crackling energy fields. It was an edifice of elegance, efficiency, and daunting power, a stark contrast to human engineering. Impressive, Grayson murmured, halting the transport before the main entrance. It is adequate, Shalia replied, her tension palpable through the neural link. The facilities hold the most advanced Kalari technology, including the equipment to sever our bond. Including that? He sought her gaze, her violet eyes unreadable. Are you eager to be free of our connection? The question hung suspended between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Through the bridge, Grayson felt her fear, her hope, and a deeper emotion she struggled to conceal. I don't know, he admitted honestly. Are you? I am conflicted. The words seemed torn from her. The protocol has fulfilled its purpose. The bonding period will expire in 18 hours. Logic dictates that we should proceed with the separation and return to our former lives. She averted her gaze, a blush rising on her neck. But I find myself reluctant to proceed. The neural bridge has become comfortable, familiar. Her violet eyes met his once more, now filled with vulnerability. I have grown accustomed to feeling your presence within my mind. She looked away again. It is illogical. Kari do not form lasting attachments with other species. It is unprecedented. Maybe precedent is overrated, Grayson countered, a spark of defiance in his voice. As she stepped from the vehicle, the outpost's security systems sprang to life. Holographic displays flickered, bathing them in beams of blue light as they scanned. Though I suspect my colleagues will have opinions regarding our situation. The main entrance slid open, revealing a tall Kalari male with silver hair and an expression of thinly veiled disdain. His violet eyes swept over Grayson with open distaste before settling on Shalia. "Researcher Shalia," he greeted her in heavily accented English. "I am Vexron, the outpost commander. We received your transmission concerning the bonding incident." "Commander," Shalia responded, her voice carefully neutral. "I have brought the human for protocol termination." "The human?" Vexron's tone suggested he was speaking of something unpleasant one might find stuck to their boot. "Yes, we have prepared the separation chamber. The procedure should take approximately 1 hour." "1 hour?" Grayson asked, his brow furrowed. "The bonding protocol creates deep neural pathways," Vexron explained, his English precise and cold. "Severing the connection requires careful extraction to prevent psychological damage, memory loss, emotional trauma. In extreme cases, complete neural shutdown." He fixed Grayson with a look that bordered on amusement. "Though I doubt a human nervous system is complex enough to suffer significant harm." "Commander," Shalia interjected, a warning note in her voice. "The human is a capable technician. He deserves respect." "Of course." Vexron's smile was anything but respectful. "I meant no offense. Shall we proceed with the separation?" They traversed corridors that flowed like liquid crystal, their walls adorned with scrolling Kalari script. The outpost possessed an alien beauty, with curves and organic shapes that gave Grayson the unsettling sensation of walking through the interior of a living organism. "The separation chamber is through here," Vexron announced, pausing before a door crafted from solid light. "Researcher Shalia, if you'll prepare the human, the neural bridge must be gently weakened before severance. Minimize touch, sever emotional bonds." He surveyed them with evident disdain. "I trust you maintained professional distance during the bonding," he stated. "Of course," Shalria replied, yet Grayson sensed her falsehood through their connection. "Excellent. Separation will be straightforward." Vexron opened the door to a chamber of crystalline technology. "Please enter." The sterile, cold space hummed with contained energy, walls lined with devices. 2 chairs, linked by fiber optics and covered in sensors, stood centrally. "The human will sit here," Vexron indicated, "and researcher Shalria will occupy the other. The system will analyze the bridge and commence separation." "How long?" Grayson asked. "Approximately 1 hour for disconnection, another for neural stabilization." Vexron adjusted equipment with practiced efficiency. "You may experience disorientation, but no permanent damage should occur. It is safe for Kalari subjects. Human physiology is less predictable. I confess I am curious how your primitive nervous system responds to advanced Kalari technology." "Commander," Shalria interjected, her voice strained, "your comments are inappropriate." "Are they?" Vexron turned, his expression glacial. "This entire situation is inappropriate, researcher. You allowed yourself to be emotionally compromised by a primitive alien, violating every protocol of interspecies contact. I have conducted legitimate research." "You have embarrassed yourself and your species," he countered, his authority absolute. "The bonding protocol was never meant for sentient beings. It's for managing animals, not for creating this. This is a valid scientific inquiry," Shalria protested weakly. "This is a mistake," Vexron declared firmly. "One that will be corrected immediately." He activated the system, and a low hum filled the chamber. The chairs glowed blue, and Grayson felt the neural bridge pulse with increased intensity. "Sit," Vexron commanded. Grayson met Shalria's gaze. Her violet eyes, bright with unshed tears, reflected pure terror. He felt her fear, her reluctance, and a desperate urge to flee. "Shalria," he whispered. "I?" She looked at him. "I cannot. I do not want to lose the connection. I do not want to lose you," she finished, her voice a mere whisper. Vexron's expression hardened. "Researcher Shalria, submit to separation. This attachment is unnatural, unhealthy, violating every principle of Kalari society." "Does it?" Shalria straightened, her resolve solidifying. "Or does it violate your narrow definition of what Kalari society should be? You are emotionally compromised." "I am emotionally evolved," she declared, stepping closer, her hand finding his. As they touched, the neural bridge blazed, and the equipment beeped frantically. I have discovered something that transcends species boundaries, making me better. You have been contaminated by primitive emotions. I have learned to love. Her voice resonated with a strength that seemed to vibrate the crystalline walls. If that makes me primitive in your eyes, then perhaps primitiveness is superior to your cold, logical perfection. Vexran's face flushed purple. Submit to separation, or I will activate emergency protocols. Emergency protocols? Grayson asked. Forced neural severing, Shalria explained, her grip tightening. It would break the connection, but the psychological trauma could be severe. How severe? Memory loss, personality fragmentation, complete emotional shutdown. She looked at him, fiercely. He could destroy everything that makes you, you. And what would happen to you? The same. We would be free of each other, but we would not be ourselves anymore. Vexran activated a control panel. The equipment powered up to dangerous levels. You have 10 seconds to comply voluntarily, researcher. After that, I will initiate emergency separation. No. Shalria's voice was calm, her determination palpable. Our connection, this neural bridge, will not be severed. What you've constructed is an aberration, but what we share is love. Her violet eyes blazed, a testament to her resolve. Love, I tell you, is mightier than your technology, your rigid protocols, your prejudiced worldview. Grayson surveyed the chamber, his thoughts a rapid storm. Kari technology, sophisticated, yet flawed. Perhaps elegant solutions weren't always the answer. Shaluria, he stated, moving towards the controls. How much power does this separation system demand? Enormous amounts, she replied. Why the inquiry? I'm contemplating a rather unconventional approach, he admitted. Reaching the panel, he began deciphering the displays. While Kari's script remained a mystery, energy flow patterns were universal. This entire outpost relies on a unified power grid, correct? Indeed, Shaluria confirmed. And what if that grid were to endure a sudden, massive surge? Grayson mused aloud, a dawning realization in her eyes. Perhaps by rerouting the atmospheric processor controls directly into the main power coupling? The safety systems would initiate an immediate shutdown of all non-essential functions, including the separation chamber, Shaluria stated, a slow smile spreading across her lips, this time devoid of sorrow. That is brilliant. Crude, perhaps, Grayson corrected, his fingers a blur across the panel, but effective. Stop! Vexran lunged, but Shaluria intercepted him with breathtaking agility. A brief struggle ensued, ending with her pinning him against the wall. Commander, my apologies, she said formally, but I cannot permit your interference with our unrefined problem-solving. Grayson located the atmospheric controls and initiated the power rerouting. It mirrored his previous actions, but on a vastly grander scale. Instead of a pressure wave, he was orchestrating an electrical feedback loop designed to overwhelm the outpost's safety protocols. Warning, the outpost computer announced in Kari, then shifted to English. Power fluctuation detected. Initiating emergency shutdown procedures. The separation chamber's equipment sputtered, its menacing hum diminishing into silence. Emergency lighting flickered on, and blast doors sealed with a resounding thud. There, Grayson declared, stepping back. No more separation chamber. You've crippled the outpost, Vexran spat, straining against Shaluria's hold. I've activated your safety measures, Grayson countered. The power will be restored in a few hours once the grid stabilizes, but the separation equipment will require a complete recalibration, which could take days, perhaps even weeks, Shaluria added, releasing Vexran. By which time, Grayson continued, taking her hand once more, our bonding protocol will have naturally expired. You cannot evade your commitments indefinitely, Vexran asserted, smoothing his uniform. The Kalari Confederation will never condone this perversion. Then perhaps it's time for the Confederation to evolve, Shaluria replied, her voice firm, to broaden its understanding of what is achievable. You are discarding everything, your career, your standing, your very place in Kari society, for a mere primitive. I am choosing love over fear, she declared, meeting Grayson's gaze, her violet eyes alight with unwavering determination. And I would make that choice again, every single time. Then you are both utter fools. Vexran advanced towards the sealed door, pausing at its threshold. This outpost will be mended, The separation will proceed, and you will be returned to your rightful place in the established order. Perhaps, Shaluria said softly, or perhaps we will forge our own. After Vexran's departure, they stood in the dim, darkened chamber, the emergency lighting casting elongated shadows across the crystalline walls. The neural bridge between them pulsed, stronger than ever, and Grayson could feel Shaluria's emotions, relief, elation, trepidation, and love, intertwined. So, he murmured, what now? Now, she replied, moving closer, her warmth a palpable presence. We face the consequences of our choices. The protocol would expire in 17 hours. After that, they would be truly free to decide the fate of their neural bridge. And what is your decision? He asked. I want to keep it, she confessed, her fingers gently tracing the line of his jaw. I want to keep you. I want to build something entirely new, together. Something that transcends species, transcends ancient protocols, even if it means relinquishing your position in Kari society, especially then. She smiled, a vision of unparalleled beauty. After all, she continued, what is society but a collection of individuals choosing to build something collectively? If Kari society cannot embrace love, then perhaps it's time to create a better one. A society of two. A society of two, she echoed, at least to begin. That's a significant risk. The most rewarding solutions often are. She pressed a soft kiss to his lips, and through their connection, he felt her absolute certainty, her profound love, her unwavering commitment to their shared choice. Besides, she whispered, I've learned something crucial from studying. As Grayson analyzed the ruined controls, a chilling thought struck him. Sometimes, the most straightforward solution is the only one. Is that what we are doing here? Shaluria's violet eyes held a determined spark as she replied, We're forging something revolutionary, a connection defying every barrier, a love beyond biology and culture. She paused, her expression softening. We're building a future that others can't even imagine. Grayson chuckled nervously. No pressure, then. Shaluria's laughter was like a melody in the sterile chamber. Perhaps I should forewarn you, my possessiveness will intensify when the protocol expires. Without artificial bonding to blame, I will have to acknowledge that my territorial instincts are entirely genuine, she whispered, drawing closer until her body met his. I may grow intensely protective of what is mine. And what's yours? He asked, his heart pounding. You, she breathed, every facet of you. Your warmth, your brilliance, your refusal to accept defeat. Her expression was both fierce and tender as she continued. Sharing may become difficult for me. I'm perfectly fine with that, he replied, his voice thick with emotion. Good, she murmured, resting her head on his shoulder. We have 17 hours to solve this without resorting to ancient protocols or separation technology. He turned to her, violet eyes sparkling with a hint of playfulness. Any ideas? Several. Most involve staying close to you and refusing to let anyone else fix our deliberate damage. Grayson grinned. Sounds like a plan. It's a rather crude plan, she admitted, but a thrill ran through her voice. But as you've taught me, sometimes, the crude approach is the best. Surrounded by shattered alien technology, Grayson realized that perhaps they truly could create something extraordinary. Maybe love was a force stronger than protocol, prejudice, or the fear of the unknown. The neural bridge vibrated between them, a testament to their connection. For the first time in this chaotic journey, Grayson felt a sense of calm. They had love, determination, and a remarkable talent for dismantling alien technology. What more could they possibly need? Vexran's expression hardened, announcing Shalia's restoration to proper Kalari emotional parameters, and the human's return to his colony with adjusted memories, specifically editing the last 72 hours to reflect a routine assignment. Grayson watched him smile, a chilling sight, as Vexran declared both would be freed from their unnatural attachment, but refusal was not an option. A security officer activated her crackling energy restraint device, commanding submission to correction or facing more permanent solutions. Through their neural link, Grayson felt Shalia's terror and rage, knowing the brilliant, fierce, impossibly brave woman he loved would become an empty shell, her emotions surgically removed, and he would forget her entirely. There has to be another way. Grayson pleaded. There is no other way, Vexren countered, insisting the contamination must be cleansed. Contamination! Shalia's voice sharpened dangerously, calling love contamination. Vexron dismissed it as weakness, irrationality, a failure of Kalari development, gesturing the security officers to proceed with their arrests, their devices humming with lethal energy. As they advanced, Shalia laughed, her violet eyes blazing with a strange intensity. You know what's funny? She questioned. You're so focused on preserving Kalari purity, you've forgotten what made our species great. Vexren dryly asked her to enlighten him. Adaptation, evolution, the willingness to grow beyond our limitations, she declared, her resolve solidifying through the neural bridge as she looked at Grayson. You want to know what I've learned from studying humans. They never give up. They find solutions that shouldn't work, and they make them work anyway. As an officer commanded, touching now, submit to restraint. Grayson moved to the control panel. Actually, he replied, I think we'll pass on the whole neural reconditioning thing. Vexren insisted. You have no choice in the matter. Sure we do, Grayson said, his fingers flying over the crystalline surface as he entered commands. See, while you were making your villain speech, I was analyzing the outpost power grid, and I've discovered something interesting. This facility doesn't just have separation equipment. It has a complete molecular laboratory, including matter-antimatter research chambers. He looked up, his expression grave. You know what happens when you destabilize antimatter containment? Vexren paled. You would not dare. Watch me, Grayson replied, his hand hovering over the final command. One more step, and I trigger a cascade failure in the antimatter storage system. The explosion would vaporize this entire outpost. Vexren exclaimed, You would kill us all? I'd prefer not to, Grayson stated, but I'm not letting you turn her into a robot and erase my memories. He looked at Shalia, drawing strength from her presence, and declared, Sometimes the only winning move is to change the game entirely. Vexron accused him of bluffing. Am I? Grayson initiated the first command, and alarms blared throughout the outpost. That was the preliminary destabilization. I have approximately 5 minutes before the containment fails completely. Abort the sequence, one officer yelled. Can't, Grayson lied cheerfully. The process is irreversible once initiated. Kalari technology, you know, elegant, efficient, and absolutely no room for crude human safety overrides. Vexron called him insane. I'm in love, Grayson countered, looking at Shalia, who stared at him with absolute awe. And apparently, love makes you do crazy things. The outpost computer announced helpfully, 4 minutes. Evacuate the facility, Vexren ordered his officers. All personnel to emergency transports. Asked about the prisoners, Vexren bitterly replied, Leave them. If they wish to die for their contamination, let them. The security officers fled, their restraint devices forgotten in their panic. Moments later, Grayson and Shalia were alone in the separation chamber, alarms wailing. 3 minutes, the computer announced. So, Shalia said conversationally, you have doomed us both. Actually, no, Grayson replied, entering another command sequence, silencing the alarms. The antimatter containment is perfectly stable. I just made the computer think it wasn't. You what? Shalia gasped. I convinced the safety systems there was a cascade failure. The computer is evacuating everyone based on false sensor readings. He grinned. Sometimes the crude solution really is the best solution. You magnificent, impossible human, she breathed, throwing her arms around him. The neural bridge blazed with her joy and relief. You terrified them with an imaginary explosion. Well, not entirely imaginary, he said, pulling up another display showing the outpost's actual power grid. I did destabilize some of the research. Every piece of their insidious research equipment, the separation chamber, the neural reconditioning facility, the very memory adjustment systems, all of it is irrevocably, utterly offline. Permanently. I might have, quite unintentionally, triggered a minute matter-antimatter reaction within the primary laboratory. It was harmless, truly, but the burst of electromagnetic energy unleashed was precisely enough to utterly obliterate every single neural manipulation device in this entire compound. Her gaze fixed on him, a mixture of disbelief and dawning comprehension. You annihilated their capacity for forced separation and memory erasure. She whispered, crude, yet devastatingly effective. He surveyed the inert chamber, a wry smirk touching his lips. Though, he added, We might consider our hasty departure before they realize that particular explosion was rather localized. A flicker of fear touched her eyes. Leave? How? They'll surely have neutralized our transport. They'll have certainly attempted, he countered, already moving towards the exit, gently urging her along. But I might have, shall we say, implemented a few optimizations to our ship before we even entered this place. Optimizations? She echoed, skepticism lacing her tone. Let's simply state that Kari security protocols are meticulously crafted to counteract Kari technology, he explained. They're somewhat less adept at anticipating raw, rather ingenious human engineering solutions. They navigated the unnervingly silent, evacuated outpost, gliding past holographic displays that flickered erratically and scattered remnants of research equipment. The once bustling corridors, famed for their elegant crystalline architecture, now felt eerily desolate, stripped of all life and warmth. There, Grayson announced, indicating through a pristine, transparent wall towards the vast landing area beyond. Their own transport rested undisturbed, precisely where they'd parked it. Nearby, Vexran and his agitated security contingent were huddled around several other ships, clearly wrestling with stubbornly uncooperative engines. You sabotaged their transports, she stated, a hint of awe in her voice. I merely optimized their fuel systems, Grayson corrected smoothly. Regrettably, these optimizations involved the subtle introduction of molecular components entirely incompatible with their engines, components that will necessitate several arduous hours, perhaps even a full day, to fully purge. He swiftly engaged the outpost's exit controls, and the massive main door dilated open with a soft hiss. Ample time for our swift departure, he declared. They reached their transport unhindered, the frustrated Kari security detail utterly engrossed in the futile struggle with their own immobilized vehicles to even register their presence. As Grayson ignited the ship's engines, he caught sight of Vexran, now frenetically shouting orders and gesticulating wildly in their direction. I believe he's deduced the antimatter explosion was a clever diversion, Shalria commented wryly. Fortunate, then, that we're already departing, he replied, a sense of triumph swelling within him. The transport ascended effortlessly, its ingeniously human-modified engines purring with remarkable smoothness, completely unfazed by the Kalari's desperate, failed attempts to disable them. Any thoughts on our destination? He asked, the open void beckoning. Away from here, she stated with quiet, unwavering conviction. But how far? Just beyond this Kari outpost, or entirely beyond Kari dominion? She pondered the profound question, her brow furrowed in deep thought. The Confederation will never simply disregard this incident. They will relentlessly pursue us, striving to tear us apart, to correct what they perceive as an intolerable contamination. Her violet eyes, luminous with fierce resolve, met his. We cannot possibly remain within Kari territory, nor can we ever return to the human colony. Dr. Blake would pose questions I am entirely unprepared to answer. Then we forge a path to somewhere entirely new, he proposed. A place where neither of our species holds any claim. A true neutral ground. She brought up a sweeping star chart on the transport's gleaming navigation system, its constellations spilling across the display. There exist unclaimed systems, far out on the galactic frontier, she mused, her finger tracing shimmering lines. Worlds capable of sustaining life, yet too desolate, too distant for either government to ever truly concern themselves with. Frontier worlds, untamed expanses, places where the sole prevailing law is the one we define for ourselves. Her gaze settled on him, her expression earnest, a quiet intensity burning within her. It would be a profoundly challenging existence, fraught with peril, deeply uncertain. But free, he breathed, the word a nascent hope. Utterly, unequivocally free. She reached across the console, her fingers gently interlacing with his, a tangible connection forging between them. Free to become precisely who we choose to be, rather than merely what our restrictive societies dictate we must be. A powerful surge of exhilarating possibility coursed through Grayson via the neural bridge, a resonance not merely his own, but unequivocally hers, transmitted with raw clarity through their profound link. The intoxicating vision of forging something utterly novel, something truly unprecedented, resonated deeply within both their souls. There's just one critical complication, he confessed, his voice tinged with an unexpected vulnerability. What is it? She prompted, her attention instantly sharpening. The bonding protocol. It expires in barely 6 hours. When it does, this neural bridge, our connection, could simply fade. We might lose it entirely. He held his breath, waiting. "Is that what you desire?" he asked, his heart thrumming. "No." Her response was immediate, resolute, devoid of any doubt. "I want to preserve it. I want to preserve you. I want to construct something that has never before existed, even if it demands relinquishing every single thing we have ever known." "Especially then," he affirmed, tightening his grip on her hand, feeling the profound warmth and steady beat of her essence through their intertwined fingers. After all, what true purpose is there in possessing everything if you cannot share it with the one person who truly matters? She fell silent for a long, contemplative moment, her gaze sweeping over the swirling expanse of the star chart. Then, slowly, a radiant smile bloomed across her face. "There," she finally whispered, her finger tracing a faint point on the outermost fringe of charted space. Kepler 42. No established colonies, completely untouched. Yet the fourth planet exhibits every sign of being profoundly habitable. A breathable atmosphere, a remarkably stable climate, and no intelligent life. "No intelligent life yet," Grayson gently corrected, his own heart swelling with anticipation. "We would be the first." "The first of what?" she mused, her eyes sparkling. "I don't know," he admitted, a sense of destiny settling over him. "Perhaps a new kind of species, a new society, a living testament that love can indeed triumph over ingrained prejudice." He met her gaze, his expression earnest, unwavering. "What do you want to be?" "I want to be free," she articulated simply, her voice clear and resonant. "Free to love whom I choose. Free to craft the life I desire, rather than merely submitting to the one expected of me." She paused, a soft flush warming her cheeks as a deeper understanding passed between them. The promise of a shared, uncharted future stretched before them, boundless and full of audacious hope, shining with purple. "I want to be yours, truly, if you'll have me," she whispered, her voice a soft murmur. His grip tightened, a silent affirmation. "I'll have you," he promised, his tone low and certain. "Even knowing I'm possessive, territorial, and entirely likely to reprogram any female AI that so much as looks at you cross-eyed." She let out a breathy laugh, leaning into him. "Especially because of that," she confessed, her eyes sparkling. "Good." She settled deeper into her seat, but her fingers remained laced with his, a comforting tether. "Because I should warn you," she continued, a mischievous glint in her gaze. "Without the bonding protocol to blame, I may become even more unrestrained, more attached, more affectionate, inclined to curl up in your lap at the most inappropriate moments." Her violet eyes, now alight with playful challenge, met his. "I might just decide to sit on you during meals." A soft smile touched his lips. "That doesn't sound terrible." "I may insist on sharing your bed," she went on, her voice dropping to a seductive purr. "For optimal thermal regulation, of course." "I think I can live with that," he conceded, his thumb stroking her hand. "I may even become jealous of your attention towards inanimate objects, coffee machines, diagnostic equipment, that sort of thing." He chuckled. "I'll try to be discreet about my relationship with technology." "See that you do?" She feigned sternness, then dissolved into laughter. The sound filled the transport's cabin, a pure, harmonious melody. "Though I suppose," she added, squeezing his hand, "if you're going to have inappropriate relationships with machines, I'd much rather they be our machines. Yours and mine, together." "Our machines," he echoed, the words settling comfortably between them. "We will need to establish the fundamental infrastructure on our new world," she began, her voice gaining an excited fervor. "Atmospheric processors, power generation, robust communications equipment." She paused, her gaze distant, filled with a profound vision. "We will be building a civilization, from scratch, just the two of us, to start." She turned to him then, her expression serious, almost reverent. "Though I suspect we will not remain alone forever. There are others like us, individuals who do not fit neatly into their society's rigid expectations. They will sense us. They will find us eventually." A radiant smile touched her lips. "And then we build something bigger, something better." She squeezed his hand, her conviction palpable. Something that celebrates love rather than fearing it. 3 weeks later, a new dawn broke, and Grayson stood on the observation deck of their newly acquired cargo ship. Below them, Kepler 400 F-42 Beater expanded in the view screen, its emerald and sapphire swirls of ocean and land unfurling beneath pristine white clouds. 2 luminous moons hung suspended in the twilight purple sky, casting an ethereal glow upon a world waiting to be born. It was beautiful, in an utterly alien, breathtaking way. Second thoughts. Shalia's voice, soft and resonant, joined him. She materialized beside him at the view screen, a vision of practical grace. Gone was her formal Kalari research attire, replaced by simple, pragmatic human clothing, though the intricate silver tattoos still spiraled mesmerizingly up her arms, a beautiful echo of her heritage. None, he replied, his gaze still fixed on the approaching world. Only about our choice of ship. She gestured with a wry twist of her lips around the cargo vessel's somewhat cramped, utilitarian interior. This human transport is adequate, but hardly elegant, wouldn't you agree? It gets the job done, he offered with a slight shrug. Yes, but at what cost to aesthetic sensibility? She moved instinctively closer, her body seeking his warmth, the familiar comfort of his presence. Though, she admitted, a hint of genuine curiosity in her tone, I confess the crude engineering has a certain robust charm. High praise from a Kalari, he teased gently. Former Kalari, she corrected, her voice firm, tinged with a quiet triumph. I have been officially declared dead by the Confederation, vanished in an unfortunate antimatter explosion while investigating illegal human technology. And what does that make you now? He asked, turning his head to meet her gaze. Free. She settled fully against his side, her head finding its familiar place on his shoulder, her breath a soft sigh against his neck. Free to be whatever I choose to be. The neural bridge between them hummed, a vibrant, living connection, as potent as it had ever been. Stronger even, despite the formal expiration of the bonding protocol. Whatever profound, intricate bond they had forged had transcended mere artificial constraints, evolving into something entirely, uniquely their own. Approaching optimal orbit, the ship's computer chimed, its cheerful voice undeniably not sounding like a certain ex-Confederation AI, Grayson mused. Planetary scan indicates multiple suitable landing sites. There, Shalia declared, her finger tracing a holographic line on the view screen, pinpointing a continent in the planet's northern hemisphere, near a vast river delta. Excellent access to fresh water, incredibly fertile soil, naturally defensible terrain. You've been thinking about this, he observed, impressed. I have been planning, she corrected with a radiant smile, pulling up a detailed holographic display of topographical maps. We will need to establish basic infrastructure first. Power generation, atmospheric processing, communication arrays. Then, and only then, can we begin construction of permanent facilities. Permanent facilities, he echoed, the words resonating deep within him. A home. She looked at him, her violet eyes luminous with anticipation, reflecting the alien beauty outside. A place that belongs to us, Grayson, built precisely to our specifications, free from the suffocating expectations of our respective societies. What kind of specifications? He prompted, a smile playing on his lips. Large windows, of course, for optimal light penetration, highly efficient thermal regulation systems, and, naturally, a comprehensive workshop for your technical projects. She paused, a delicate flush spreading across her cheeks, deepening to a soft purple. And a very comfortable seating area, where I can curl up in your lap while you work. He chuckled softly. That sounds very scientific. It is completely practical, she insisted, a playful firmness in her tone. Optimal workspace configuration demands proper attention to all environmental factors, including lap access, especially lap access. She leaned in and kissed his cheek, a warm, soft touch, before turning back to the captivating planetary display. Though I should warn you, she murmured, her voice taking on a deeper, almost primal edge, I may become even more possessive once we establish our territory. More possessive? He prompted, intrigued. This will be our world, Grayson, our home, and I may become intensely protective of what is ours. Define protective, he challenged, sensing the powerful current beneath her words. Any uninvited visitors will be met with extreme prejudice, she stated, her tone utterly matter-of-fact, yet he felt her fierce, unyielding determination resonate through the neural bridge between them. I do not intend to share. Good thing the planet's uninhabited, he mused, a new depth of understanding for her intensity. For now, she replied, her expression grew serious. But eventually, others will come. Refugees from rigid societies, outcasts seeking a new life. Individuals who simply don't fit the narrow definitions of their species. She paused. We will need to decide what kind of community we want to build. What kind do you want? One that celebrates diversity rather than fearing it. One that judges individuals by their actions, not their species or origin. She smiled. One that understands love isn't contamination. It is evolution. The ship's computer announced, preparing for atmospheric entry. Please secure all loose objects and assume crash positions. Crash positions? Shilaria asked, a hint of surprise in her voice. It's just a precaution, Grayson assured her. Human landing systems are robust, crude but effective. Exactly, she agreed. The ship shuddered as it hit the planet's atmosphere, its heat shields glowing a fierce cherry red in the view screen. But the landing systems held, and within minutes they were settling onto the surface of their new world with only minor structural groaning. Welcome to Kepler 442b, Grayson said, checking the atmospheric readings. Breathable air, normal gravity, ambient temperature within acceptable ranges. Home, Shalia said softly, the word imbued with deep meaning. They stood together on the observation deck, looking out at an alien landscape that was theirs to explore, to shape, to make their own. In the distance, purple leaf trees swayed gently in an alien breeze, and something that might have been flowers dotted the rolling hills. So, Grayson said, what do we do first? First we establish basic survival infrastructure, she stated, moving to the ship's planning station, pulling up construction schematics. Then we begin building our future. And what does that future look like? He probed. Uncertain, challenging, probably dangerous, she replied without hesitation. She looked at him, her violet eyes bright with profound love and unwavering determination. Perfect. 6 months later, Grayson sat in his workshop, calibrating the atmospheric processors that kept their small settlement running smoothly. Through the large windows Shalera had insisted upon, he could see her tending the experimental crops they'd planted, using hybrid Kalari and human agricultural techniques. Grayson, she called through their neural link, her mental voice warm with affection. The latest communication array is functioning perfectly. We have established contact with 2 other frontier settlements. Anyone interesting? He asked. A group of Andromedans who left their hive mind collective to pursue individual consciousness, and a human centaur couple exiled for violating species purity laws. Her amusement rippled through the connection. It seems we are not the only ones who refuse to accept narrow definitions of what is possible. This is the beginning of something bigger, something unprecedented. She entered the workshop, her clothes dirty from gardening, but her expression radiant with satisfaction. A society based on choice rather than genetics, on love rather than prejudice. And how do you feel about that? Excited, terrified, hopeful, she confessed, moving to his workstation, automatically settling into his lap, despite the fact that he was trying to work. It is everything I never knew I wanted. Everything? He challenged playfully. Well, almost everything, she conceded, turning in his arms, her violet eyes bright with mischief. I still think we need to work on your thermal regulation techniques. My thermal regulation is fine, he countered. It could be optimized, she purred, running her fingers through his hair, the gesture intimate and possessive. I may need to conduct more detailed studies. More detailed studies? He echoed. Extended proximity research, comprehensive tactile analysis. She leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. A thorough investigation of human Kalari compatibility parameters. That sounds very scientific, he murmured. It is completely scientific, she said solemnly. Though I should warn you, the research may require significant hands-on experimentation. I think I can handle that. Good. She settled more comfortably in his lap, her tail curling around his waist. Because I have approximately 3 centuries of research planned. 3 centuries? He asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. Kalari have very long lifespans, and I am very thorough in my research methods, she explained, her expression serious despite the humor. I hope you do not have other plans." "No other plans," he assured her. "Though I should mention, I may become possessive of my research partner. Possessive, territorial, protective, inclined to reprogram any AI that flirts with you." He pulled her closer, feeling her warmth and contentment through the neural bridge. "I may not be willing to share." "Good," she said firmly. "Because I am not your pet, Grayson Blake. I know I am not some creature to be bonded and trained. I know I am a free individual who chooses to be with you." She looked at him, her violet eyes bright with love and mischief. "And I choose to monopolize your lap for the foreseeable future." "The foreseeable future?" "The next few centuries at least," she said, settling against him more comfortably, her head resting on his shoulder. "Though I suppose if you get too uncomfortable. Your insistence that I might occasionally permit you to labor without my constant supervision is quite generous. I assure you, I'm nothing if not remarkably reasonable." She paused, her gaze thoughtful. "Would you care for some tea, my dear human? Or perhaps we could revisit our delightful game of Don't Touch the Tail. I distinctly recall the tail being declared off-limits. Precisely. That, my love, is the very essence of its captivating allure." Her violet eyes sparkled with amusement as she looked at him. "Though, a word of caution, the penalties for losing have become considerably more imaginative." "Imaginative in what way?" "You'll simply have to play to discover the delightful intricacies." A soft kiss graced his lips, and through their shared neural link, he felt the profound depths of her love, her unbridled joy, and her absolute conviction that their audacious endeavor was unquestionably worth every perilous risk. After all, she mused, life's most remarkable discoveries invariably arise from the boldest experimentation and a tenacious refusal to succumb to the seemingly impossible. "Is this," he questioned, "merely an experiment?" "This, my darling, is the irrefutable proof of concept," she declared, her tone earnest. "Proof that love possesses a power far exceeding protocol, prejudice, or the chilling grip of the unknown." She gestured expansively towards the window, where their humble settlement was blossoming into a testament to a future previously unimaginable. "This is tangible evidence," she proclaimed, "that sometimes the most profoundly simple answer is indeed the most profoundly correct one." "And what," he inquired, "is this singular, simple answer?" "That I love you. And that you love me? That everything else is merely—" Her smile bloomed, a breathtaking spectacle he'd never before witnessed. Details streamed through the workshop's panoramic windows. The alien sunset cast a celestial tapestry of vibrant purples and molten golds across their newly claimed world. In the hushed distance, their vital communication array pulsed with incoming transmissions from fellow outcasts, kindred dreamers, and brave souls who had dared to choose affection over apprehension. The neural bridge between them thrummed, no longer an artificial construct, but as fundamental and intrinsic as the very act of breathing. They had shattered the established boundaries of species, societal norms, and every convention that dictated their existence should be impossible. And cradled in her lap, for she had, with astonishing grace, managed to reposition them so he was now the one being held, Grayson Blake, formerly an Earth technician and now a burgeoning pioneer of the truly impossible, mused that perhaps the most rudimentary solutions were, in fact, the most effective. After all, they had forged something unprecedented, something that scoffed at every established rule governing interspecies connection. They had cultivated love. They had constructed a home. They had architected a future that belonged exclusively, gloriously, to them. What greater abundance could any soul possibly require? "Grayson," Shalia's voice, soft and saturated with contentment, floated to him. "Yes. Thank you." "For what?" "For being gloriously, stubbornly impossible to fix." She turned to him, her violet eyes luminous with unshed tears and the echoes of shared laughter. "For your steadfast refusal to accept the rational solution, for your choice of the raw, unrefined answer over the polished, elegant one. Thank you for being so exquisitely worth it." "Always," she affirmed, her voice a gentle caress. "For the next few centuries, at least." At least. And as the ethereal alien stars began to pierce the deepening purple sky above their extraordinary world, these two souls, who had transcended every barrier meant to keep them apart, settled into a quiet embrace, savoring their crude, inelegant, and utterly perfect resolution to the profound mystery of love. 5 years after establishing their fledgling settlement on Kepler 4042b, Grayson stood within the sterile confines of their now expanded medical bay, his gaze fixated upon a holographic display revealing something truly impossible: 2 minuscule heartbeats, where only one should have been. "Twins," Dr. Cassara announced with a note of wonder in her voice, her